This bill usually shocks owners, but the real surprise is what caused it. Not accidents, not defects, just normal charging habits repeated for years. 5 small routines most drivers never question. Slowly push the battery toward a $11,000 replacement most people never saw coming. If you appreciate clear Tesla advice without the forum noise, consider subscribing. Mistake number 5. Plugging in with only 5 to 10% battery. Too often. Charge your Tesla before the battery drops too low. Waiting until the display shows single-digit range might feel harmless, but repeating that pattern constantly places the pack at the lowest end of its operating voltage. Lithium-ion batteries are most comfortable operating in the middle of their state of charge range. As the battery approaches very low SOC, the voltage inside each cell drops closer to its lower safety threshold. The battery management system protects the pack, but the cells are working harder in that range than they would at moderate charge levels. Occasional deep discharge is not a problem. Tesla designs a buffer below the visible percentage specifically to protect the battery. The issue appears when very low charge becomes a routine habit. Running the battery close to empty every day means the pack repeatedly spends time in its lowest voltage window before being charged again. The better habit is simple. Begin charging earlier during normal use. If your daily driving brings the battery down to around 15 or 20%, that is usually a healthier point to plug in rather than waiting until the last few percent remain. This approach keeps the pack operating inside a more stable window where the cells experience less electrical stress. Tesla itself encourages maintaining healthy charge ranges during normal use. Their official guidance explains how charging habits influence range and battery behavior over time. Over years of ownership, avoiding repeated deep discharge helps the battery maintain more stable voltage conditions and predictable performance. Mistake number 4. Starting a drive immediately after fast charging. Drive gently for the first few minutes after leaving a supercharger. Jumping straight into hard acceleration right after fast charging places the battery under heavy load when it has already been working at high power. DC fast charging pushes a large amount of energy into the battery in a short period of time. That process naturally raises the temperature inside the pack. Tesla's thermal management system actively cools the battery during charging, but the pack is usually still stabilizing when the session ends. If the driver immediately demands strong acceleration, the battery faces 2 stresses at once: the heat from rapid charging and the power draw from driving. The battery management system controls this safely, but the cooling system still needs a short window to bring the pack back toward its normal operating temperature. The practical solution is simple. Drive normally for the first few minutes after unplugging. Smooth acceleration and steady speeds allow the cooling system to stabilize the battery while you are already back on the road. This brief moderation does not affect your trip time in any meaningful way. In most cases, it happens naturally as you leave the charging station and merge into traffic. Over time, avoiding repeated high-temperature stress cycles helps the battery operate in more stable conditions, which supports consistent performance throughout years of ownership. Mistake number 3. Ignoring charge rate settings on home chargers. Lower the charging current if your overnight window allows it. Many Tesla owners leave the charge rate at the maximum amperage their wall connector or home circuit can deliver, even when the car will be plugged in for many hours. AC home charging flows through the vehicle's onboard charger before reaching the battery pack. Higher current naturally produces more heat as energy moves into the cells and through the charging electronics. Tesla's thermal management system handles this well, but when maximum current is not necessary, there is no real advantage in pushing the system harder than needed. Consider a typical overnight charge. If your daily driving uses 20 to 30% of the battery, the car only needs a moderate flow of power to refill that energy before morning. Charging at maximum amperage simply delivers the same energy, faster, and then leaves the vehicle sitting full for the remainder of the night. Inside the Tesla charging screen, you can easily reduce the amp limit with a slider. Lowering the current slightly allows the battery to refill gradually while the car is parked anyway. The benefit is stability. Lower current generally means less heat buildup during long charging sessions, which helps the battery remain in calmer thermal conditions. Real-world electric vehicle fleet data supports this idea. Large studies of thousands of electric vehicles show that battery degradation varies depending on charging behavior and operating conditions. Charging at a pace that matches your overnight schedule, simply lets the battery replenish energy smoothly rather than rushing the process. Mistake number 2. Interrupting charging sessions. Repeatedly let the charging session finish once it starts. Frequently plugging and unplugging the car during the evening may seem harmless, but each interruption forces the charging system to restart its process. Here is what happens behind the scenes. Every time charging begins, the battery management system runs a short sequence. The high voltage contactors close, the onboard charger initializes, and the system checks battery voltage and pack conditions before energy begins flowing into the cells. When charging stops, that process resets. Starting again requires the system to repeat the same checks and hardware activation. Tesla designs the vehicle to handle this safely, but repeating the cycle many times in a short period adds unnecessary start and stop events to the charging system. This situation often occurs when owners briefly plug in after a drive, unplug the car to move it, and reconnect it later. It can also happen when charging is started for a quick top-up and then stopped again before the session meaningfully progresses. The better habit is simple. Plug the car in once and allow the session to run normally until it reaches the selected charge level. If the vehicle needs to be moved temporarily, it is usually better to restart the session afterward rather than breaking it into several short bursts. Longer uninterrupted sessions allow the battery management system to regulate charging smoothly, monitor pack conditions, and manage cell balancing without repeated restarts. Over time, this steady pattern keeps the charging process more stable and predictable. Mistake number 1. Leaving the car plugged in for weeks without driving. Drive your Tesla occasionally if it remains plugged in for long periods. Keeping the car connected to a charger for weeks without driving may seem like the safest way to preserve the battery, but complete inactivity is not always ideal. Inside the system, Tesla's battery management system continuously monitors pack voltage, cell balance, and state of charge. When the vehicle sits plugged in, it simply maintains the battery near the charge limit you selected, and occasionally adjusts the pack to keep conditions stable. However, lithium-ion batteries are designed to operate, not remain completely static. Under normal use, energy flows out of the battery during driving and flows back in during charging. These small cycles help the system observe how the pack behaves under real load. When the car stays parked for long stretches without driving, those natural operating cycles disappear. The battery remains stable, but the system has fewer real-world reference points for monitoring the pack's behavior. The practical solution is simple. If your Tesla will remain plugged in for an extended period, take it for a short drive from time to time. It does not need to be a long trip. Even a brief errand allows the battery to discharge slightly before returning to its regular charging routine. This small activity helps the battery management system continue observing the pack under normal conditions. Over time, that helps maintain stable monitoring and predictable energy management. In simple terms, a Tesla battery performs best with occasional movement rather than complete stillness. Final thought. How Tesla batteries actually age. Remember this rule. Tesla batteries rarely fail because of one dramatic mistake. Most of the time, they age through small conditions repeated over thousands of days. The 3 factors that quietly shape battery health are voltage, temperature, and how long the battery stays in those conditions. When the pack spends more time in stable ranges, the cells simply experience less stress over the years. The habits we discussed are not complicated changes. They are small adjustments that help the battery operate the way it was designed to. Charging smoothly, avoiding unnecessary extremes, and allowing the system to manage the pack properly all support long-term stability. Over years of ownership, these simple patterns matter more than any single charging session. The goal is not to chase perfect numbers on the screen, but to give the battery consistent conditions so it can deliver reliable performance for a very long time. If you value practical Tesla insights that actually help you manage your car better, consider subscribing.